Amara had always lived a quiet and peaceful life in her small village. Surrounded by green fields, chirping birds, and the laughter of her friends, she felt safe and content. Every morning she would help her mother with household chores, and in the evenings she would sit by the river watching the sunlight dance on the water. Life was simple, but it was filled with happiness. She loved her family dearly and enjoyed the small pleasures of life, like baking bread with her mother or playing with the children in the village square. However, the peace of the village was fragile. Stories of the outlaw gang led by Ronan were whispered in fear among the villagers. Ronan was known to be cruel and merciless. He took what he wanted and punished anyone who opposed him. Most of all, he was known for forcing women into marriage, believing it gave him power over villages and families. Though Amara had heard of him, she never imagined that one day she would come face to face with the man himself. The day came suddenly. The sky was bright, and the birds were singing as usual when the sound of hooves thundered in the distance. Villagers looked up in fear and panic spread quickly. The outlaw gang arrived without warning. Their horses kicked up dust and their weapons glinted menacingly in the sun. Amara's heart pounded as she tried to comprehend the scene. She watched as her neighbors tried to run, but the gang was too fast and too strong. Before she could even react, Amara was surrounded by the outlaws. They grabbed her and forced her onto a horse. She struggled and screamed, but her cries were drowned out by the chaos. Her mind raced, filled with fear for herself and for her family. She glanced back at her village, hoping to see her father or brother coming to help, but they were already being overpowered. Her heart sank as she realized that help would not come. The journey to Ronan's hideout was long and terrifying. Amara was kept blindfolded most of the way. She could hear the sounds of the forest, the horses' hooves, and the muffled conversations of the outlaws. Her fear was almost unbearable, but deep inside, a spark of determination began to grow. She knew that giving up was not an option. She had to find a way to escape no matter how difficult it would be. When they finally arrived at the hideout, Amara was brought into a dark, cold room. She could see glimpses of other captives, but they avoided eye contact, their faces pale and fearful. The walls were rough and the air was damp. The hideout was hidden deep in the mountains, far from anyone who could help. Amara realized that this was a place where Ronan's power was absolute. She had to be clever and patient if she wanted to survive. Days passed slowly. Amara observed the routines of the outlaws, learning when the guards changed and where the weak points of the hideout were. She tried to stay unnoticed, blending in and following the rules, but her mind was always working on an escape plan. At night, she would lie on the cold floor and think of ways to get out. She remembered the stories her mother had told her about courage and resilience. They gave her strength. Ronan, the outlaw leader, was a terrifying presence. He was strong and cunning, and he commanded respect and fear from his men. He would occasionally enter the room, his eyes sharp and calculating. Amara could feel his gaze on her and knew that he was assessing her, trying to understand her thoughts. She forced herself to remain calm, not letting her fear show. She had learned that any sign of weakness could be dangerous. One evening, Ronan announced that the marriage would take place soon. The words struck Amara like a lightning bolt. She knew that once it happened, her freedom would be lost forever. She could not let that happen. Determined, she began to prepare her escape plan carefully. She memorized the layout of the hideout, observed the guards' habits, and gathered small tools whenever she could. Every detail mattered, and she paid close attention to everything around her. The night of her escape finally arrived. The moon was hidden behind clouds, and the forest outside the hideout was dark and silent. Amara waited for the perfect moment when the guards were distracted. Heart pounding, she slipped out of the room, careful not to make a sound. She moved quietly, following the path she had memorized. Every step felt like a lifetime, but she pushed forward, driven by hope and courage. As she reached the outer edge of the hideout, she could hear the faint sound of Ronan's men searching nearby. Fear surged through her, but she forced herself to remain calm. She had come too far to give up now. She ran into the forest, her breath coming in short, sharp gasps. The trees provided some cover, but she knew the outlaws could be anywhere. She kept moving, trying not to think about what might happen if they caught her. Hours seemed to pass as she ran through the forest. Her legs ached, and her body was exhausted, but she refused to stop. She knew that every second mattered. She had to keep moving if she wanted to survive. Finally, as she stumbled near a river, she collapsed behind a large rock to rest. The cool water and the soft sound of the river calmed her racing heart. For the first time in days, she allowed herself a moment to breathe. It was then that she saw him. A man on horseback was riding slowly along the riverbank. Amara froze, unsure if he was a friend or a threat. Her mind raced with possibilities. Could he be another outlaw? Or someone who might help her? She had no way of knowing. And yet something about him seemed different. His eyes scanned the forest with a careful, watchful intensity, and Amara sensed that he was looking for someone, or something. The man noticed her hiding and slowed his horse. He called out, his voice calm but firm. Amara's heart leaped with both fear and hope. She did not know whether to trust him, but she had no choice. Slowly, she stepped out from her hiding place. The man dismounted and approached cautiously, keeping a respectful distance. Amara could see the badge on his chest. It was a symbol of authority. She realized he was a sheriff. Neither spoke immediately. Amara's mind was filled with questions, and the sheriff seemed equally cautious. He studied her carefully, noticing her torn clothes, dirt-streaked face, and fearful eyes. There was a silent understanding between them. They were both aware of danger, and trust would have to be earned. Amara made a choice. She decided to reveal only a little about herself, enough to gain his help without putting herself at greater risk. The sheriff introduced himself as Elias. He asked gentle questions, trying to understand her situation without frightening her. Amara spoke carefully, explaining that she had escaped from a dangerous gang leader and needed help. Elias listened intently, his eyes showing concern and determination. He assured her that she would be safe if she stayed with him, but he also warned her that the forest was full of danger and that Ronan's men could still be searching for her. Amara nodded, feeling a mix of relief and anxiety. She knew that escaping the hideout was only the beginning. The journey ahead would be full of challenges, and she would need courage and careful planning to survive. For the first time since her capture, she felt a glimmer of hope. With the sheriff's guidance, she might have a chance to reach safety and, one day, reunite with her family. As they prepared to move, Amara glanced back at the forest, thinking of the hideout and the dangers she had narrowly escaped. She knew that Ronan would not give up easily, and that she would have to remain vigilant. Yet, despite her fear, she felt a quiet determination growing inside her. She had survived the worst, and now, with Elias by her side, she would face whatever came next with courage. The night was dark, the forest quiet, and the river flowed steadily beside them. Together, Amara and the sheriff began their journey, moving carefully through the shadows. Each step brought them closer to safety, but also deeper into the unknown. Amara's heart was filled with a mixture of fear, hope, and determination. She had escaped the clutches of the outlaw leader, but her journey to freedom was only beginning, and so, under the cover of darkness, the young woman who had been forced into a terrible fate now walked with a stranger, guided by courage and the desire to reclaim her life. She did not know what lay ahead, but she knew one thing with certainty: she would not give up. Not now, not ever. Amara walked quietly beside Sheriff Elias, her heart still pounding from the escape. The forest was dark, and shadows danced as the moonlight filtered through the trees. She kept glancing over her shoulder, fearing that Ronan's men might be following them. Elias noticed her unease and offered a reassuring nod. "We'll be safe if we stay alert and move carefully," he said. His voice was calm and steady, giving her a small measure of comfort. As they moved through the forest, Elias asked her simple questions, trying to learn more about her situation without causing her stress. Amara answered cautiously, speaking about her capture and how Ronan had forced her toward marriage. She did not reveal every detail, worried that too much information might put her in danger. But even these small words brought a sense of relief. Finally, she could speak to someone who seemed genuinely willing to help. Hours passed as they navigated the forest trails. Elias shared stories of his work as a sheriff, how he had chased outlaws and protected villages. Amara listened with fascination, feeling admiration for the man who had risked so much to uphold justice. Yet she also noticed the seriousness in his eyes, the weight of responsibility he carried. She realized that he was not just strong in body, but strong in character. Suddenly, the sound of distant voices and the snap of twigs made Amara tense. She froze, signaling to Elias. He quickly pulled her behind a large tree. From their hiding spot, they could see a group of Ronan's men moving through the forest, searching for any signs of the runaway. Amara's stomach churned with fear. She had narrowly escaped once, but now the danger was closer than ever. Elias whispered a plan. They would stay hidden until the men passed, then move silently along a different path to avoid being caught. Amara nodded, silently thanking her quick-thinking instincts for helping her survive so far. As the outlaws moved past, she felt a mixture of relief and exhaustion. Every moment in this forest was a test of courage, and she realized how much she had grown in a short time. After hours of careful travel, they finally reached a small clearing where a stream flowed gently. Amara bent down to drink the cool water, feeling a rare moment of calm. Elias kept watch, his hand resting near his gun. As she drank, she thought about her family, wondering if they had survived the attack on the village. She missed them terribly, but she also understood that she had to focus on surviving first before she could reunite with them. Elias studied her silently, noticing her determination and bravery. "You've been through a lot," he said softly. "But you're strong. That's why you're still here." Amara felt a warmth in her chest at his words. She had never imagined anyone acknowledging her courage in this way. It gave her a small spark of confidence, a reminder that she could face whatever came next. The journey continued, and they began to develop a quiet trust. Amara shared small details about herself: her love for the river, her memories of the village, and her dreams of a peaceful life. Elias shared his own experiences, talking about the people he had helped and the challenges he had faced as a lawman. Slowly, a bond formed between them, built on mutual respect and the shared goal of survival. But the danger was far from over. Ronan was relentless, and he would not let Amara go easily. That night, as they camped in a small cave for safety, they heard the distant sound of men searching. Amara's fear returned sharper than before. Elias reassured her, but the reality was clear. They had to stay one step ahead, and every move could mean life or death. The following days were filled with careful navigation and constant vigilance. Amara proved herself resourceful, noticing hidden paths and avoiding potential traps. She learned to read the signs of the forest, to move quietly, and to anticipate danger. Elias was impressed by her intelligence and courage, and he began to rely on her instincts as much as his own experience. Together they were a team, each complementing the other's strengths. Eventually they reached a small town near the edge of the forest. It was quiet and peaceful, but they knew Ronan's men could appear at any moment. They moved cautiously, blending in with the townspeople and avoiding attention. Amara felt a strange mix of hope and anxiety. For the first time, she could see a glimpse of safety, yet she knew the threat was still near. As they walked through the town, they noticed signs that Ronan's gang had been there recently: broken carts, scared villagers, and hastily abandoned supplies. Amara's heart sank. They were close, but the danger was very real. Elias reassured her once more, promising that they would confront Ronan and protect her. She trusted him, knowing that his skills and determination were her best chance at freedom. The confrontation came sooner than they expected. In the outskirts of the town, they were cornered by a group of Ronan's men. Amara's heart raced, but she did not panic. Elias took the lead, using his knowledge of the terrain and his skill with strategy to outmaneuver the outlaws. Amara followed his instructions carefully, her mind sharp and alert. During the tense encounter, Amara found herself facing one of the guards who had been cruel to her in the hideout. She remembered the layout she had studied and used it to her advantage, creating a distraction that allowed Elias to gain the upper hand. The teamwork between them was seamless, each action precise and deliberate. Amara realized that her courage and intelligence were now powerful tools in their fight for survival. Finally, Ronan himself appeared, riding into the clearing with an air of arrogance. His eyes scanned the scene, searching for Amara. She felt a surge of fear, but it was tempered by the strength she had gained during her escape. She stood beside Elias, ready to face the outlaw leader. Elias confronted Ronan directly, his voice firm and commanding. "This ends now, Ronan. You will not harm anyone else." Ronan laughed, a harsh and cruel sound, but his confidence faltered as he realized that he was outmatched. Elias's strategy, combined with Amara's clever maneuvers, had given them the advantage. After a tense struggle, Ronan was finally defeated. The remaining men either surrendered or fled, leaving the town and Amara free from their threat. With Ronan gone, Amara felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She could finally breathe, knowing that her life was her own again. She and Elias walked through the town, checking on the villagers and ensuring that everyone was safe. Amara felt a deep sense of gratitude toward the sheriff, who had risked so much to protect her. Yet, she also realized that her own courage had been just as important in overcoming the danger. As the sun rose the next morning, casting warm light over the town, Amara and Elias prepared to part ways. The journey had created a bond between them, one built on trust, respect, and shared struggle. Amara looked at him with a mixture of gratitude and admiration. "Thank you," she said softly. "I could not have survived without you." Elias smiled gently. "You were brave, Amara. You trusted yourself and stayed strong. That is why you survived. Remember, courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to keep going despite it." Amara nodded, feeling the truth of his words deep in her heart. She had faced her darkest fears and emerged stronger, wiser, and more determined than ever. Finally, Amara returned to her village. The reunion with her family was filled with tears, hugs, and joyful relief. She shared her story carefully, speaking of the dangers she had faced and the courage it had taken to survive. The villagers listened in awe, inspired by her bravery and resilience. Amara had not only escaped captivity, but had also grown into a stronger and more confident woman. Though she never forgot the fear and pain of being held by Ronan, Amara chose to focus on hope, courage, and the lessons she had learned. She knew that life could be unpredictable and dangerous, but she also knew that she had the strength to face whatever came next. The bond with Sheriff Elias remained in her memory, a symbol of trust and bravery that would never fade. In the end, Amara's story became more than just a tale of escape. It was a story of resilience, courage, and the power of hope. She had been forced into a terrible situation, but through intelligence, determination, and the help of a kind stranger, she had reclaimed her freedom. Life in the village slowly returned to normal, but Amara carried with her the knowledge that she was stronger than any challenge she might face in the future. The forest, the river, and the journey with Sheriff Elias would always remain a part of her memory, reminders of the time she turned fear into strength and danger into triumph. Amara had faced the worst, but she had survived, and in doing so she had discovered the courage within herself to face whatever life might bring.